Board Australia, and Stephen Bowman, the Managing Director of Conscious Governance. Now, Lisa wrote a blog for us recently, and it was titled The Importance of a Board Skills Matrix. Here was the introduction of it. I'll read it out. The article from Lisa discusses the importance and utility of establishing a board skills matrix in corporate governance. A board skills matrix assists a board in aligning itself with the skills, expertise, experience, and other attributes vital to offering maximum value to an organisation. The matrix isn't merely about skills in a traditional sense. It considers a broad range of attributes, including inherent traits, temperaments, styles of working, professional specialities, etc. Effective matrices should reflect an organisation's strategic plans, recognise the importance of soft skills and diversity, be future-focused, and be continually compliant, and weigh attributes according to their importance. Well, I think that was very well written, Lisa.
That's it. That's a good summary of that. I think we can close down now.
So I've got some questions that I want to put to both of you just to have a little conversation on this. Mm-hmm. The first one is, why is a board skills matrix considered a critical tool in modern governance? Who wants to tackle that one?
Lisa.
I'm happy to kick that off. Why is it an important tool? It serves so many different purposes for boards, and it really brings in this element of intentionally and consciously thinking about who is on the board, what is the value that they're bringing to the organization, and how can we leverage that value that group of people have within them. And you really can't do that without having that understanding, firstly, of what you need. So what even makes sense to bring in as a board member, and then having the oversight of that whole team. Where's the certain strengths? Where can we best leverage those people? And then really understanding how we do that within the organization. And how do we unlock that inherent value that you hopefully have within the board members around the table?
Got it. Steve, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, and some people may not like what I'm about to say, but that's what I'm saying.
Go on, say it anyway.
The notion of a skills matrix, it's the very first part of a whole succession planning process for the board. So it forces the board to think about the future, not just, we've lost 2 people from the board. Does anyone know anyone? And if you don't have a skills matrix and you're not using it and you're not putting a succession plan in place, you're a lazy board. And I hear this so often from people that have said, and this just happened 2 days ago, it's so hard to find people for our board. And I said, no, it's not. It's because you're boring and that you're not actually succession planning. You're not finding people for your board. So let's look at those 2 things. Anyway, my thoughts.
We actually have an example. It's a Word template of a board skills matrix that Stephen put together for us, which is in the comments link just below the live cast. Question number 2. Beyond technical skills, how can a matrix be used to incorporate interpersonal attributes and diversity elements into board composition?
Say that one again, Sean.
Beyond technical skills, how can the matrix be used to incorporate interpersonal attributes and diversity elements into board composition?
Yeah, so traditionally what we see on board skills matrix, I mean, in its name, it's skills, we focus too much probably on those hard skills that people bring to the table, which are, of course, incredibly important, but it's not the be all and end all. Like you said in the introduction, we're more than just the expertise and the professional attributes that we bring. Of course, we bring in other personality attributes, interpersonal attributes, diversity attributes that we all have inherently. I mean, I'm female. I can't not be female. I mean, I guess I could if we want to get into that conversation, but there are just things that are different live stream will do that in. So there are other things that we can consider when we think about how we assess people within the board skills matrix. or the board composition matrix we should think about. And really we come back to what gets measured gets managed. And if your board has ambitions to become more diverse, to become more broadly skilled, and to also consider what are the different personality attributes and temperaments that we could bring into our group around the board table that will make us better than what we are right now, whatever that means to you. How can we really enhance this team that we have? And a comprehensive board composition matrix, which I'm now calling it that, can really help you do that.
I'm just going to share the, if I can find it, here we go. Can you see that coming up on screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's the an example of a board skills matrix that Stephen, I think you put together this matrix last year sometime, Stephen.
That's right, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's one of many, many, many examples. Every time you see a skills matrix, it's done slightly differently. But to me, the most important part is the thinking that goes behind it and the conversations that the governance committee or the PCNR committee, People, Culture, Nominations, Remuneration Committee, it's the conversations they have around that then help determine who we should go out seeking. Once you seek these people, you'll find them. They're out there. But if you just sit back and say, we've got a couple of spare spots on the board, is anyone breathing? Then you're not going to find anyone with that.
Exactly.
Next question. Let's have a look. How should an organisation decide on diverse attributes of soft skills that are pertinent to its specific context?
Yeah, again, this is a conversation that really needs to happen, whether, as Steve said, it's in your committee or whether it's at a board level. I really hope it is at a board level, because everyone's going to have to deal with what you end up with. And so they should all have input into who ends up around the table. Of course, there's a risk taking the existing board members to think about what's needed for the future. Like you said, Steve, it should be future focused, because they may be stuck in their ways and may not have that broader vision about what is possible, what the potentials are. So that's always a risk to be managed. But definitely have the conversation as a board about what those might be and how it makes sense. And so the article talks to a few different things or documents to look to really determine what those are. So I encourage people read the original article, but definitely have the conversation as well.
Brilliant. That article's on our blog, by the way. It's the importance of a board skills matrix. How can a board determine which skills are best suited at the board level versus the executive or senior level?
Steve, I'd like you to answer that one.
Okay. Well, the greatest indicator of this is looking at your strategic plan. If your strategic plan says, one of our key strategies is really enhancing stakeholder engagement, and then there's action plans underneath that, then you probably want someone who's got the experience and the skills and high-level, high-performing stakeholder engagement in areas that don't necessarily have to be in your sector. But they've got the skills and the experience. And most importantly, and this is the key point, they will ask questions that no one else will thought of asking. What you don't want is an expert. What you do want is someone who's incredibly curious, but also has a lot of expertise and life experience in some of those areas. Lisa?
You? Anything to add?
No, I think that's really good. There's probably some indicators that you can think about how much work is needed to be done in a specific area, and whether that is practical for a board member to be getting that involved for that amount of time, or whether it's better served actually hiring someone, and whether that's a part-time, a contract, or even a full-time role. You may be able to make that assessment. Again, knowing that you may be missing some knowledge there, so getting some feedback or input from someone who's skilled in this area may help you to make that decision, but certainly think about the practicalities of it as well.
Right. Awesome. And how frequently should boards update their skills matrix And what are the key indicators that might signal a need for a refresh of their board matrix? Steve?
I would, and I'm pretty sure Lisa would say the same thing, that it should be done in advance of needing to do it. So in essence, if you said just once a year, well, what happens if you lose a director, or what happens? So I would say in advance of needing to, at least once a year. Lisa, yours?
Oh, exactly the same. Once a year, or when the time requires. Don't just leave it to that once a year, but do it as you need to. If someone leaves, if someone is coming to the end of their term, you may want to be playing around with it. What does our skills matrix or skills composition look like? Our composition matrix, look like without this person involved? And do we need to replace that skill for skill or attribute for attribute, or can we now think about this differently? So once a year, if not more often, as you need it. People coming, people going. Maybe the board has undertaken some professional development, and maybe that means we need to update our composition matrix to reflect that added skill set that we have as well. But even if you haven't touched it for a minute, maybe it's time to go in again. Maybe you'll read this article and think about how you can do it better. That's a great opportunity.
Awesome. Here we go. How can the skills matrix inform decisions around CEO succession planning? Steve?
That's a really interesting question, that one, because when we're looking at skills matrix, it's what the board needs to be able to do and to ask the sorts of questions around. With the CEO succession planning, we're really looking at what is the CEO that we're going to need in the next 2 or 3 years. How can we help our existing CEO get there? And if they're not the appropriate person, then what have we got in place to actually look both internally and a process for looking externally? So I haven't yet seen a skills matrix tied in with the board, with the CEO succession planning. It's an interesting concept, but I'm not quite sure how that would work. Lisa?
Yeah, the way I see it, Steve, is I think there's a real opportunity to plot alongside with the board members those very senior people that you have in the organization. If it's only a CEO, pop them in there. If you have a whole senior leadership team, you may want to put them in there as well, maybe separate from the board members, but plotting them on similar attributes, or even attributes that you need specifically from that senior leadership team, but including them on there may give you that clearer oversight around your internal potential candidates, but also gives you that better understanding, like with board members, what is the skill set and other attributes that we're looking for from our next CEO or from a CEO. And that may also help to inform the professional development that you invest in for the current CEO as well, and shows maybe some areas for development for your internal candidates too. Well, I'm interested in seeing some board composition matrices, maybe including those senior team members as well.
I think that's a great idea. Great idea. That segues into this question, actually. In what ways can a board leverage its skills matrix for positive outcomes, specifically in terms of recruitment and professional development?
Yeah, I think what we've been saying, what gets measured gets managed. And if you're seeing that there's those gaps in either of those things, of course, that signals some potential investments that you can make there. And investment doesn't always have to mean money. I know that people push back and say, well, we're not for profit. We don't have a lot of resources. We have volunteer board members. Investment could mean time. You all read the same book, you all read the same article, and then you have a conversation about it, things like that. So it doesn't just have to be paid professional development. So there's indicators from that will show you what you need to be doing, where you need to be investing time and or money.
Right.
Yeah, the key thing I would add to that is that if you can, as a board, show hand on heart that you can help a new director go away a better person by being on your board, then you should promote that. You should tell them about it. Here's the support you'll get. Here's the induction program you'll get. Here's the professional development that we've allocated. Here's how we're going to help you understand the sector and the industry more. You are more likely to get a high-performing director when you specify that rather than just saying, here are the skills we're looking for.
Yeah. And not everyone's looking to get paid, Steve. Like, there's a lot of volunteer board members out there, and you'll get great ones as long as you're doing all that stuff that you talked about.
Yeah,
Right.
That's what they'd be looking for.
Excellent. Lucky last question. How does regularly referencing a skills matrix help in achieving and maintaining diversity goals within the board?
Again, what gets measured gets managed. Put your diversity attributes that you're seeking, that you already have, in that board composition matrix as well, because that's going to show you where those gaps are, but also where you do have that diversity. And I know when we say diversity, we're often focused on gender. Think about beyond that. Of course, include gender, but what are the other diversity attributes that are going to make sense to this board at this time in that short to medium term future going forward? And how can we indicate those so that we're measuring them, so we're actually consciously, intentionally looking for that to come into the boardroom?
I mean, one of the great questions always to ask is, if we bring this person onto the board, or if they're elected on the board, are they going to help us understand what choices we've got going forward? And if they are able to actually articulate and use their life experience, their skills to help us understand there may be other choices as well too, that's a very powerful board member. You don't want someone coming onto your board who's already got the answer. You do want someone who understands from a very different perspective what life might be like, and they can help us identify what the options that we've got, the various choices that we've got. And that's a good board member.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, this has been an interesting conversation this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sean.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, I think. So again, thanks to Lisa Cook from Get On Board Australia and Stephen Bowman from Conscious Governance. We'll see you next time.
Everyone, thanks, Lisa.